Recording in progress.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the Radiant Torah, the parsha with Rebbe Nachman of Breslov and other tzaddikim. And we want to thank Dr. Eleanor Gudis for sponsoring this parsha share week after week. May it be a source of bracha for her and her family. And we're going to jump right into Eikev. Eikev is a special parsha. Last week we were in recovery from 3 weeks, and we had Shabbos Nachamu. And of course, we are continuing in Devarim, in the book of Devarim. And Eikev happens to be, even in a way, more of a turning point than Va'eschanan, in a way, because Eikev is packed, filled with beautiful, beautiful brachos, beautiful blessings of the Torah. And I always find that this parsha itself is just packed with hope, and it's packed with incentive to increase our bitachon, our trust in Hashem. And the parsha begins, V'haya Eikev tishma'on es hamishpatim ha'eleh. In the future, because you heed these laws, ushmartem va'asisem osam v'shmar Hashem elokecha lecha es habris ve'es ha'chesed asher nishba lavosecha. And because you heed these laws and you guard them and you fulfill them, Hashem, your God, is going to guard you. He's going to shomer you. He's going to protect you. And he will guard for you the bris. What is the bris? It's our covenant. It's our contract with Hashem. And of course, it also represents the bris milah. And he's going to protect for us the kindliness, the chesed that he swore to our ancestors. So Hashem is telling us, or Moshe is telling us, that when we follow the Torah, when we pay attention to it, Hashem is going to pay attention to us. When we guard the Torah, we appreciate its worth, and we guard the Torah, and we understand that the Torah is given to us as a gift. It's not just as a reining in kind of object. It's something that is a gift to us. It's very special. When we appreciate it, Hashem shows us appreciation. Now, I want to say that throughout, Hashem also promises us he's never going to forget us anyway. But if we want that special sweetness in our relationship, then what we do, excuse me, Charlene isn't here, so I'm the one logging people in. Please forgive me. So what happens is he's not making a deal with us. He's making a promise to us. And I'm sorry, I have to mute everybody. Okay. So he continues that he's going to love us, and he's going to bless us and multiply us. Now, Eikev, very famously, in a Rashi, we understand that it means heel, the heel of the foot. And it's often commented on that when we say Eikev, it's a reminder to us to not trample on with the heel of the foot the mitzvahs that we view as unimportant. Now, we all know that every mitzvah of the Torah has the same weight. At least it should for us. We don't truly know which mitzvah is greater than another. Okay. And of course, we hear all the time, well, this mitzvah, Shabbos is the most important mitzvah, or we might hear, being kind to one another, Ahavas Yisrael. So we emphasize all the mitzvahs at different points in time. But in terms of actual importance, We don't know which is the most important. And this is a caution, says Rashi, to not trample on the mitzvahs that perhaps we don't view with the same level, same measure of respect and importance that we view others. Everybody knows what I'm talking about because everybody has mitzvahs that seem inconsequential to them. Sometimes those mitzvahs are things we do a lot, so they become rote to us. We maybe know the importance of prayer, but sometimes in the middle of it, our minds are wandering. Okay, so this has become rote to us, and we are in effect slightly trampling on it. Okay, sometimes we maybe engage in a very visible mitzvah. Let's say you build a yeshiva, and you're the one who builds a yeshiva. It's a huge mitzvah, and then we forget the littler mitzvahs that don't take as much of our blood, sweat, and so on. That those little mitzvahs are also extremely, extremely important. Now, Rebbe Nachman has an interesting way of seeing this section. He says, as it begins, Vahaya, in the future, he says that this refers to happiness, to simcha. And where does he get that from? So there is a Gemara, it's actually in a couple of places in the Gemara, that it says when the word Vahaya in the future is mentioned, it's also referring to, it's a code for happiness, joy, simcha. So Rebbe Nachman is explaining here that when we don't do the mitzvahs with happiness, that's not a good thing. We're trampling on them. But when we do them with happiness, that's when we are cementing this beautiful love relationship with Hashem that the parsha continues with. Okay. So how do we do the mitzvahs with happiness? So this idea is to really work on a relationship with Hashem. Because, you know, when you're in the beginning of a relationship, okay, the beginning of a shidduch, let's say, everybody can remember that. Your heart's pounding, you're excited, every word seems so precious. You can read so much into every word. You have a heightened sense of alertness and awareness. And it's the same, perhaps, the first time you do a mitzvah, maybe the first time you lit Shabbat candles. Okay, and you had that heightened alertness, that heightened awareness that you were doing something beautiful for yourself, for Hashem, with Hashem. And this relationship was created. This relationship was actually created with your simcha, your love, your hope, your joy, the emotions you are putting into your mitzvahs. So can we do this? Can we do this with every single mitzvah? Okay, so the tzaddikim can. And we use them as our role models. So our mission, part of our mission, is to do the mitzvahs, with holiness. I mean, with joy. Excuse me, I'm signing somebody in. And of course, it's not signing in properly. Okay, if you can hear me, please mute yourself when you log in. So anyway, this idea is to keep this freshness, which we follow Rebbe Nachman's advice to make Hitbodedut, to make Hitbodedut every day. That renews our relationship with Hashem. Now, I'm going to use a term, I mean, it may sound a little weird, but it's like our date with Hashem. We are only there for each other. And we're there for ourselves too, obviously, but Hashem is there for us. And all our attention is focused on sharing ourselves with the other, in this case, Hashem. It's like, as Rav Avraham Tzvi Kluger so beautifully discusses it in his book, which is now available in English, called One, the Yichud of Hitbodedut. It's like being in the Yichud room with Hashem. Okay, after you get married, you have to go to the Yichud room and spend a few moments together in order for the marriage to be sort of sealed. because that affirms, if you are able to spend time alone with each other, that affirms that you are now husband and wife. So when we go and we talk to Hashem and we're alone with him, we seclude ourselves with him and we open up our hearts to him, it's as if we're in the Yichud room. And that's why they call this relationship Yichud. We are alone together with Hashem. So this is something that also keeps us very fresh in the mitzvahs. Now, okay, we're going to continue with the next part where I spoke that Hashem will love you and bless you and multiply you. Okay, let's see. Too many notes and books. Okay, so what does all this mean? Hashem will love us, he'll bless us, and he'll multiply us. Okay, on the surface, it means he'll love us. Okay, so what's love? So love, what is love? Love really, for a human being in the secular world, love is a feeling. It's a feeling, okay? And like all feelings, it can come and go. Okay, but a higher order of love, and even in the secular world, a higher order of love, but certainly in our world, in the world of connection to Torah, connection to Hashem, and connection to the true tzaddikim, love is it's an avoda, it's a service. Love is a constant positive effort made towards the object of one's love. So when it says Hashem will love you, it's saying this is a tremendous blessing. And if a person is loved by Hashem, he receives blessings. Now, the blessings of this world are what's included in here, but it's also talking about things that may not come to fruition in this world at this time, okay? And we know that we also have another world. We have Olam Haba. We have Olam Haba. We have Olam Haba up above when we leave this world, and we have Olam Haba when Mashiach comes in the future, and the world finally comes together and is able to express its ultimate purpose, which is to reveal the glory of Hashem, to reveal the greatness of Hashem, because that greatness, okay, is really an expression of Hashem's love for us as well. And it's an expression of our own awe and our own love of Hashem when we reveal it. Okay, that's really, what's really so great about Hashem here. Okay, I'm speaking very casually about this, but when you think about it in human terms, Hashem is so great. He created everything from nothing. He constantly sustains all of creation with his focus, okay? He constantly surrounds all of creation and he fills all of creation, as the Kabbalistic texts say. But what's so amazing is that Hashem isn't limited by his greatness. As a matter of fact, perhaps the worst mistake we can make is to think, why would Hashem care about me? I'm a little nothing and he's the creator of the universe. Why would he care about me? Okay, why would he be involved intimately in my life? Why would he care if I got that parking spot? Why would he care if my oven broke down and I need to get a new one? Why would he care if I have a toothache? Okay, because Hashem is so great that he has the greatness to be involved with each person on a personal level and care about them on a personal level. That's an incredible level of love. It goes beyond a mother's love, okay? It's the love where Hashem's attention is focused on you every moment of every day of your life. It's completely focused on you. Okay, it's so amazing to think about this, that for Hashem, you are his beloved daughter. You are his only princess. You are the daughter of the king. Okay, yes, he has many more daughters of the kings, but his love for you is as if You are the only one. Because Hashem is so great that he can love in this way. Now, a parent, you have a few kids. So what happens? So you love all your children, but maybe there's one or two that you feel you have to be more involved in their lives. Maybe you feel they need you more. Maybe you just naturally sort of click with a child better. It doesn't mean you love the others any less, but you have this relationship with them that's deeper and maybe richer just because you have more in common. Or you see a child who needs something more, so you give them more. Hashem treats us all like a special needs child in a good way. He gives us his all 100% of the time if we want it. Sometimes if we don't want it, there may be a veil, a hiddenness, but he's still there underneath it all. Okay. So this first benefit is Hashem will love us. And that is just the tremendous blessing. The next benefit is it says Hashem will love you and he will bless you. Okay, remember Moshe is continuing with his review of Torah, but now he's telling us if you follow the Torah, this is what you get. Okay, just to refresh those who came in late. So what is he going to bless you with? So the standard explanation for this is the material blessings, the blessings of this world. Okay. When we have this relationship with Hashem and his Torah, we get blessings of this world. Now, how is that possible? We look around and we see that sometimes some pretty not so nice people seem to have a lot of material blessings. They may even have not only wealth, they may have big families and descendants. And how is this possible? I mean, we certainly see it. Okay. We could see it in the public.
Right.
Oops. Okay. Whoever is not muted, please mute yourself.
If I'm here, that's when he starts.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to mute this person. Whoever's not muted, please mute yourself. Okay. So where was I? And then we see people who they look like tzaddikim to us. Okay. Some of whom I know personally who really struggle in this world. Okay, so I spoke about this briefly last week, that in some situations, Hashem is giving a Russia what his reward should be now in this world. And he's saving the reward. He's balancing out so that when the tzaddik goes into the next world, they will have no consequences. They have not receive the reward in this world, they'll receive it in the next world. Well, what does that have to do with material benefits? There's a promise here. He will bless you with material benefits. I mean, Hashem, we can read this at the pshat, at the simple level. So sometimes material benefits are blocked for the benefit of a person. Sometimes they're blocked for the benefit of a person's family. Sometimes material benefits come down and they are dispersed in a later generation. Okay, it's not really so simple. Yet we are assured that in the future, all the material benefits will be here for us. At that point, our tastes will have changed and we'll appreciate them, but we won't revel in them. We won't necessarily get so excited by the material benefits. We're going to be living at a higher spiritual plane, but we'll be able to make use of the material benefits to serve Hashem. And the third part of this promise is he will multiply you. Okay, so he will love you, Hashem will love you, he will bless you, he will multiply you. And we know that Hashem multiplied the Jews in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, in just tremendously, so that in a relatively short period of time, it went from a family of 70 people into a nation of a few million. It was 600,000 men, but really it was a few million people. There's also a I don't think it's a Midrash, I think it's a Zohar, that says in the future, in the world to come, a woman and a man will lie together, the woman will become pregnant, and she will give birth in the same day to 6 or more children. Okay. So what does that mean? There'll be multiple births. So on the surface, it means that we will continue to populate the world in this very miraculous manner. And at the same time, it also means that what is a birth? A birth can be a rebirth of self. A birth can be a spiritual rebirth. It can be a chidush in Torah. We have so many things we compare to birth. Chevle Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach. So this multiplying also happens at a spiritual level. Okay, how do we connect with that power now? When we heed the Torah, when we pay attention to it, when we grow in Torah. You have to grow in Torah. Everybody does. Wherever you're at, you have to grow more. Okay. And for each person, that may mean something slightly different, and that's okay. But we all have to grow. We all have to heed it. We all have to recognize its divine providence. Not providence, but providence. That's where it comes from. It is not something, God forbid, chas v'shalom, as the maskilim say, something written by men, God forbid. You know, when we have this full appreciation and we're on the path to assimilating the Torah, when we're drinking it as if we're thirsty, we also find ourselves giving birth in a way, multiplying in a way, our good thoughts, our spiritual thoughts, our spiritual feelings, the mitzvahs we do, the actions we do. So we can make that multiplying, we can take it literal, which we should really, it's Hashem's going to multiply us. So many, many, many of us, we have a lot of babies, which is wonderful. Who doesn't love babies? And then at the same time, we can view it as this work we do on ourselves, this inner work. All the new selves we birth. We have a chance to birth new selves. Okay. When we fall and we pick ourselves up, okay, or when something happens and we say, nope, I'm going to keep on going because I trust in Hashem. When we make an error and we do tshuva and we move forward and onward, we have, in a way, rebirthed ourselves, along with Hashem's, of course, absolute involvement. So there's material benefits that are expressly promised in this parsha for heeding the Torah. And the truth is if you look around at your friends and your communities and the people who are very immersed in Torah, you will see that they do seem to have a lot of blessings. They may not be madly wealthy, but maybe they're rich in children, or maybe they're rich in friends, or maybe they're rich in knowledge. Okay, so and hopefully they're all rich in joy. Okay, which we go back to from the beginning of this parsha, the Chaya. Okay, in the future and also with joy. Okay, all right. Where am I going now? Okay, so one of the important points of this parsha is Moshe warns us to not to forget Hashem. And he warns us to not think that we're the ones who are deciding the outcome of what we do. And it will be easy for us to forget it when we live in prosperity, in wealth, in Eretz Yisrael. So we remember, if you remember from last week and the week before, this is all leading up to the move to Israel. Okay, we know that Moshe is not going to be joining us. At that time, he wasn't joining us. Okay, and we understand that we're preparing. And one of the most important points of the preparation is, don't think when you get there and everything's fabulous that it's something you did with your own hands. So this is a really important point. And what I'd like to do is explore it a little bit. Just give me a minute to find the actual quote. Okay. So Moshe gives us a reminder. And maybe I won't go into it because it's already 1 o'clock, but he gives us this reminder about all the things that we can mess up with. This isn't such a heavy rebuke parsha. It's really a hopeful parsha filled with blessings. And he says, you're going to have all these blessings. And then he says, but don't think it's because of you. So how do we reconcile this with this idea of we're doing so well, we're serving Hashem, we're improving, we're learning Torah, we're going to work each day. So the idea is a dual sort of conundrum we have to keep in our minds. It's a little bit paradoxical, but if we think about it, it isn't. And that is, we are required to work at whatever it is we want. We're required to work a certain amount. Okay, maybe 40 hours a week, maybe 80 hours a week, maybe it's a half hour a day, but whatever it is, whether it's working for an income, a living, a career, a job, whether it's working to improve in Torah knowledge, whatever it is, we have to put in an effort. It's called hishtadlus or hishtadlut. We have to make this effort, okay? And this effort is essential, but the effort isn't necessarily the cause of the outcome, okay? There's a correlation between making an effort and an outcome, but not a cause. So for those of you who've ever done any scientific research or have read a research paper, you understand what I'm talking about. The correlation means that there's a relationship between the work we do, the effort we make, and the outcome. But that relationship isn't proportionate per se, okay? Sometimes it looks proportionate, and I'll explain why in a minute, okay? So what that relationship is that we are required by Torah to go out and work in everything we do, okay? Until the Mashiach comes, and for a certain while afterwards, we have to work. But the level of work a person has to do is dependent on a few things. The first thing is Bitachon, trust in God, okay? So when a person is truly working with the complete understanding that they are relying on Hashem, okay, and Hashem alone for the outcome, then that person has a higher level of bitachon, and he may or may not have to work so hard. Many years ago, I was taking some extra work. I mean, it was a really long time ago, because I needed some extra work, and I was having a conversation with someone, and she was a very learned woman. And she said to me, she said, Hashem doesn't want you to work too much overtime. You have to have time for Torah. You have to have time for family and so on, for prayer, for mitzvahs. And I started to go crazy with this idea, found sources for it all over. That could be a workshop in itself. This idea that we have to make sure that we have balance. As women, we all know that we tend to multitask. Most women tend to be overly busy. Some are not, but most women, if they're sitting around, they see something that maybe could be put off till tomorrow, but it needs to be done, they'll get up and they'll do it, okay? But the idea is to remind ourselves constantly that we're not doing it alone. We're not going to work alone. We're not cleaning our houses alone. We're not cooking dinner alone. We're not comforting a friend alone. Okay, we're not driving somewhere alone. Hashem is always with us. And whatever the outcome is of whatever we're doing, Hashem is determining the outcome. So if you work, and you work a lot of hours, but with a very high level of bitachon, but you feel that this is what's required to get the job done, but you truly know, believe, and can remind yourself every minute that whatever occurs is from Hashem, you may be able to see the outcome be a positive one. Now, that's actually part of this blessing, this idea that belief and trust in Hashem. And how do we believe and trust in Hashem? In our hearts, with our thoughts, but also by heeding the Torah, which is the gist of this parsha, right? This will bring us to a higher level of bitachon, of trust in Hashem. Now, some people trust in Hashem, and sometimes the outcome isn't what they wanted. Yet they really trusted in Hashem. They weren't relying on their own avoda, their own hishtadlus, okay, their own actions. They weren't relying on that. So the outcome isn't what you want. Does that mean you failed? Does that mean that you somehow didn't achieve? No, it just meant that this was the outcome Hashem decided. Okay. Now it doesn't let us off the hook if we, if we're planning, let's say you're planning a simcha, and instead of actually getting busy and planning and organizing it, you decide to go swimming instead. Okay, the simcha won't happen. Why? Because some level of hishtadlus is needed in everything. The level of hishtadlus that's needed is determined by each individual situation, and by each individual's level of bitachon in Hashem. Okay, there are many variables. Okay, we still have to work. However, we can try this a little bit. Next time you do something that you want an outcome for, you could say, Hashem, this is the outcome I want. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to rely on you. And please, Hashem, make it happen. And if it doesn't happen, I'll deal with it then. And if it happens, thank Hashem. Even if it's something as simple as getting your regular paycheck. Okay, you thank your employer. We have to show appreciation to our employers, but we have to thank Hashem, because ultimately it's Hashem who gave us the paycheck. Okay, ultimately it's Hashem who made that recipe work that you served to your family. Ultimately, it's Hashem who gave you success in whatever area. And if it doesn't work, the tzaddikim say we should thank Hashem anyway. But if you're not at that level, okay, sometimes it's very hard to thank Hashem for something difficult. You could still say, Hashem, I don't appreciate this now because this isn't what I wanted. I'm struggling to thank you for an outcome that I didn't want. I'm working on myself. I'm trying to get there. However, I do know that the outcome was up to you, and that ultimately it was out of your love for me that you gave me this outcome, because maybe what I wanted wasn't good for me at this point in time, or maybe what I wanted, I wasn't ready to receive yet. Okay. And of course, for people who are in shidduchim, if you or your family members are in shidduchim, this is a very big struggle. Okay. Is to maintain that absolute emunah and bitachon, the faith and the trust in Hashem while you're davening to meet your soulmate. Okay. It's going to be a very big struggle. It's not an easy one. Okay. And to keep on going and to keep on going. And for whatever it is you're davening for whatever it is you're working for, is to remind ourselves that what we're getting from Hashem is what Hashem has determined is best for us. And so I have the tremendous blessing from Hashem and good fortune in my life to meet people who are amazing people. I know people who have what look like such difficult situations, incredible situations, one struggle after the other. People with, chas v'shalom, with illnesses, people with just tremendously difficult family situations. And the people that I'm talking about now are the people who tell me, I thank God for these situations because And they always have a because. And often it goes something like this: because without these struggles, I wouldn't have really turned to him. Without these struggles, I wouldn't have really developed my relationship with Hashem. These are the people that we can all learn from. Okay. Everybody has their own struggles and their own difficulties. Some that seemingly are bigger than others. Okay. Of course, they're tailored for each individual. So this really may be a situation where it is all relative. Okay. But the people who are able to say, thank you, Hashem, for these difficulties. Now, I want to just digress and say, if you're not able to, don't beat yourself up. Be honest with your Hashem and your Hitbodedut. Tell Hashem, I can't thank you. I'm not there. I'm suffering. I can't thank you at this point. I'd like to be there one day. Right now, I just want relief. Talk to Hashem honestly. Okay, Hashem is so great. Okay, he can take it. It's okay. It's okay if you're feeling, that things are too hard. It's okay to tell Hashem. You don't have to be a martyr in Hitbodedut. You have to be real. You have to open your heart, because when you get it out, and you know what the goal is. I mean, obviously the goal is to be able to appreciate everything Hashem gives us. Hashem tov umetiv. Okay, he's good and he does good, and we have to keep that in mind. But if we're not feeling it, it's okay. It's all right. You're human. One day, maybe you'll feel it. Right now, you need to get it out. You need to feel that comfort from Hashem. You need to have that cry. You need to feel like Hashem wants you to be real with him. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that we need to spend the rest of our lives at this level. We can all grow. Every single one of us can grow. Okay. But at that moment in time, that's where you're at. Be real about it. Don't kid yourself and don't kid Hashem. Now, of course, there's the whole fake it till you make it school. And I think that's applicable in certain situations. But in my experience, a lot of women feel defeated and inferior and less than if they can't fake it. Okay. So if you really can't fake it, fine. Be real. Nobody has to know but you and Hashem. It's between you two. Remember that relationship I was speaking about before? That Yichud, you're in the Yichud room with Hashem every time you talk to him. You're alone together with Hashem. There's a level of intimacy that you cannot have with any other person in this world. You just can't. That level of intimacy is only with Hashem. Why? Because Hashem really does know your thoughts. He does know how you feel. He wants you to share it with him, not because you're telling him how you feel and he needs to hear it. He already knows. He wants you to share it with him so you get it out, so you hear yourself, you hear what you're saying, and you begin to reflect on it in a new way, which is why talk therapy can be beneficial. Because maybe the therapist can be helpful. For sure, a therapist can be helpful in certain instances. Okay, not in all, but some. However, why it works is because you hear yourself. You're getting it out and you're listening. And hopefully, rather than going back to your habitual way of thinking about things, okay, what are the habitual ways? Okay, I'm a victim, or I'm no good, or I'm terrible, or everybody's out to get me, and why did I have such a hard life? Okay, instead of all that, okay, you're gonna hear something when you speak. A new idea will come to you. Oh, well, I can't be no good because Hashem made me. Hashem doesn't make anything bad. And Hashem loves me. And I'm worthy of love. Okay, so anyway, we won't go too much into that because I want to continue on with more of the parsha. Okay, so the idea is, okay, in the Midrash, in so many of the commentaries, is to not think that we are self-reliant and that we are creating the outcome. Okay. And when we develop, okay, this is in a capsule, when we develop that bitachon, that trust in Hashem, that's really a necessary ingredient to not think that we're making things happen. Okay. And this is a reminder in this parsha. Now, Also in this parsha, I hope I can get to everything today. Also in this parsha is the Birkas Hamazon, the Birkat Hamazon. Okay, the blessing that we say after the food, after we eat. Okay, now there's the little blessings for different types of food, right? That we say afterwards. And then there's the Birkat Hamazon, which we say when we have a meal. What constitutes a meal? What constitutes a meal is a meal in which bread is served. Okay, some kind of meal that we have to wash our hands and make hamotzi. Okay, and then say the blessing on bread. So many people think of Birkat Hamazon as being associated with the 3 meals of Shabbos and Malava Malka, the 4th meal in the evening. But even during the week, when we eat bread, we wash and then we say the blessings afterwards. And just want to get my texts here. So it's interesting that the Birkas Hamazon is in this parsha, because in this parsha, what we learn is all the blessings of the land of Israel. Okay, so we're prepared for it. We're getting prepared for Israel. And then the blessings are given to us. Okay, and the blessings include, the blessings of Israel include a lot of material benefit. Okay, there's good sources of water in Israel. We have the 7 special fruits of Israel: wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. And the land itself yields minerals, and it's just a very rich land physically. Okay, and there's holiness embedded in the produce and in the land itself. Why? Because Israel is the land that Hashem watches over directly. Every other land, there's a sar, an angel or a prince, a ruler, a ruling angel, and that sar is acting as sort of the commander of that land, okay, that nation, okay. But Israel, Hashem's eyes are on it directly, which is why the blessings to be found are so much more abundant in Israel. And I would say the onus is on us to heed the Torah there at a higher level. And we'll talk about that in Birkas Hamazon in a minute. And this idea is that the land is something that right back to the beginning of the parsha, it's a mitzvah that when we're there, Eikev, it's under our heel, we're walking on it. And we have to walk on it with consciousness. And this consciousness is that there are halachos. Okay, what is a halacha? Halacha is a law, right? But halachos comes from this verb, halicha, to walk. It's the path that we walk, and that path is what we translate into English as the laws, the details of the path. Make a right here, make a left there, go straight, don't drive on Shabbos, okay, so on and so forth. And in the land, these laws have a higher possibility for blessing when we heed them, and also a higher possibility for correction when we violate them. Okay, so we have to be more conscious when we're in the land of Israel, that we have to really pay attention to Parshas Eikev. We have to follow what Hashem says. Okay, obviously everybody's at different points in knowing and growing and learning, but from wherever we're at, we want to be careful with them. Okay, and then we receive the abundant blessings of the land. Now, in Birkas Hamazon, which has to do with sustenance and food, we know that I'm going to briefly go over it. So the first blessing is the blessing for nourishment, okay? And in this blessing, this one is, we're thanking Hashem literally for the food and for nourishing us, for hamazon, the food, okay? The next blessing is the blessing for the land, okay? So Nodelacha, which is the second blessing in Birkas Hamazon, we are thanking Hashem for the land. And we're thanking it, why? Because the land is chemda, okay? It's chemda and tova. It's desirable and good. And why? Because I mentioned some of the reasons before. The physical land itself is desirable and good. It's a land that can produce a lot, as we certainly have seen incredibly since 1948, okay, and even a little before, okay. But also the land is desirable and good. Everybody else wants it. Everybody's fighting over it. I mean, if you look at from the League of Nations to the UN, it's everybody wants to eat it up. Every nation wants to consume that land and its inhabitants. Okay, they desire it. Okay, why? Why do they desire it? Doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. If you look at a map of the entire world and the little tiny speck that is Israel, why are people going so nuts over this land, tearing each other apart, fighting over it? First, we get an embassy in it, and now there's all these boycotts. I mean, it's crazy, back and forth and up and down. Okay, because the nations of the world also desire it. They may not know why they desire it, but we are so fortunate. We know why we desire it. We desire the land because that's the land that Hashem gave to us. It's ours. And he gave it to us to live there and to appreciate Hashem and his Torah in the land, and to shomer, right, to guard the Torah in the land, and to fulfill our destiny, national destiny as the Jewish people, and our personal destiny, your personal destiny, my personal destiny, to get to the land, to walk in the land, to live in the land and fulfill the mitzvahs of the Torah there. What could be sweeter? We know that I said last week in Parshas Va'eskanot, why did Moshe want to go to Israel? You know, to go shopping at the shuk? No, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go to Israel to serve Hashem at a higher level with more mitzvahs than he could do outside the land. Okay. So we should all be yearning to get there. And we should all remember that the nations want to tear us up over this land. Okay. We are not a land. We are not a nation like every other nation. It's very nice that the land has been blessed with really a lot of prosperity there. Okay. That's very nice. That's very nice. We've come a long way, but that's all Hashem's brachas. Okay. That's his blessings. Okay. The blessings of the people who really cling to Hashem. So this idea is that we thank Hashem first for the food, the obvious, and then we thank Hashem for the land in Birkas Hamazon. That's the second blessing. And the question's posed, okay, the famous question is posed is, shouldn't we thank Hashem for the land first? Because the land is where the food is grown. So don't we thank him for the land first, and then the food grows from it? So one of the reasons we don't is because this blessing is given in order of, it's given in order of provenance. It's given in order of chronological source. So the first blessing is Moshe's, and the second blessing is Yehoshua's. Okay. And this blessing begins with an expression of thanks to Hashem. Nodelecha Hashem Elokeinu. Okay. We thank you, Hashem, our God. Because you have given as a heritage to our forefathers, Eretz Chemda Tova Orchava, a land that is desirable, Tova, good, and Orchava is spacious. Wait a second. Why is this land spacious? It's not. It's tiny. Didn't I just say you have the whole map of the world and then Israel's a tiny speck? Israel has a special quality. Okay, we know that the base Hamikdash When people would go into the Beis Hamikdash, even if it was jam-packed, there was room for everyone to bend down and say Aleinu. Okay. Somehow there's something about the space in the Beis Hamikdash, and it emanates from the Holy of Holies, where no way could everything fit into the Holy of Holies. Okay. But it does, because time and space are also up to Hashem, same as in the land at large, the land of Israel at large. Okay, there cannot be too many people there. Cannot be too many Jews there. It's impossible. No matter how many of us are there and how many children are born there, there can only be more. Okay, it cannot be overcrowded. It may look overcrowded. You might go to an apartment there and it may seem overcrowded, but it's not. It's a land of wide spaces. What's the wide spaces? So the wide spaces are actually physical for some reason. Okay. You don't get the sense of crowdedness. Okay, I wouldn't say you get the sense that you're driving in Montana with a big open sky where you don't see a car for 12 hours, but you do get a sense of spaciousness, but it's also talking about the spaciousness inside. It's a land where we can spread out inside and grow. There's always room for us in Israel to grow. Rebbe Nachman was very famous for saying, it's a paraphrase about Israel, wherever I go, I'm always headed to Israel, right? So his followers asked him, many times he said, you have to go to Israel, you have to do the mitzvahs there, you have to walk your Dalet Amos, your four, it's like a cubit, I guess it is, a measurement there. And you want to do the mitzvahs of the land. It's very important. And his followers were like, thought he was speaking spiritually about something mystical. And he said, no. You have to go to the physical land of Israel. And he says, with all its houses and streets, okay, with all its material reality, that's the only place you can complete what you need to complete. And it was very hard for people to get there back then. I know I have my great grandfather walked there from Europe. Okay, it's very hard to get there. Okay, it was not easy, but people went. People have been going at all times. It wasn't just, believe me, it wasn't just in the 20th century. If you don't know the history, you will be very surprised by all the Jews who have always lived in Israel. Okay, and always lived in Jerusalem and always lived in Sfat. Okay, because it's important for us to be there. It's very important for us to be there and for us to live there with Torah consciousness and for us to live there with this consciousness that Hashem loves us. Okay, because otherwise the land spits us out. It says so. If we live there and we trample with our heels on the Torah, and we trample with our heels on our relationship with Hashem, Torah says the land vomits us out. I don't want to bring up bad, negative stuff. This is a parsha filled with brachas. You can go there with hope and go there with learning and go there with this desire to learn and to grow. Okay. So in Birkas Hamazon, the second blessing is the blessing for the land. And it's really a sort of rewording of that blessing that I read you in the parsha. Okay, the blessing of Hashem loving us and guarding us and shomering us and shomering the bris, okay, the covenant with him and so on. And that's the next blessing in the Birkas Hamazon. The third blessing is for Jerusalem, for Yerushalayim. And then the fourth blessing is for Hatov v'Hametiv, Hashem's goodness. And maybe one day we'll do a class on Birkas Hamazon because it's so amazing. But this idea is this importance is to, when we eat, to connect that with Hashem immediately. It's just like going to work and getting that paycheck. And I said, yes, we thank our employer for sure. We also thank Hashem. Okay. He's the one that really made us get it, because if Hashem didn't want it, the employer could write 1,000 checks and they'd never reach us. Okay. So it's the same with our food. It's the same with everything. It's so easy today. I mean, especially honestly, this whole COVID has changed my life. I don't know if it's some ways it's interesting. I see positive in it, but I got used to ordering things online or just calling. I have to retrain myself to go out and get what I need. It's just so easy. And when you don't go out and get what you need, it's harder to remember. When you have to make an effort, it's easier to remember Hashem's involved in the outcome. When it just shows up at the door, you don't even think about it. Okay. So part of this consciousness is to remind ourselves everything, the delivery that comes. They dropped off the prescription. Okay. They showed up to do this or that. That's from Hashem. Okay. So this consciousness becomes greater and greater in the land of Israel. Okay. So 1 second. We have another minute. Oh, I don't want that safer. This one. Okay. So it says also, I want to go back a little bit. It says also in Moshe's warning or caution to not think that we are self-reliant. You may say to yourself, my strength and the power of my hand made for me all this wealth. Okay. So Rebbe Nachman reminds us to be very careful the obvious thing here is that to not think that everything we get is we made it. Okay. We have to remind ourselves it's from Hashem, whatever success you have. Okay. Even success in prayer, can thank Hashem, because how do we start Shemona Esrei? We ask Hashem to open our mouths in order for us to pray. But the thing here that I want to bring out that I think is important is this idea that we don't believe that everything that we're doing, okay, is building something in this world, okay, that is going to last. Okay. It sounds like a very depressing thought, but it's really not. The idea is that everything we're doing in this world that we're building is really for the next world. Okay, it's for Olam Haba, the double-barreled Olam Haba I spoke about. And this idea, okay, it's not necessarily, it sounds negative, this caution, this warning. Don't think it's the strength and the power of your hand. Just give credit where credit's due to Hashem. Continue working hard. Okay, yeah, it's so interesting. Some of the people with the greatest emunah and bitachon, I know, now that I think about it, work nonstop. Yet, they're doing it with simcha. They're doing it because that's part of what they need to do, but they're not relying on their work for the outcome. So I'm bringing this up again because Rebbe Nachman actually says, there's actually something that the Rabbi Nachman Goldstein said, okay, who was somebody who took Rebbe Nachman's teachings, a great Breslover, and gave over a lot of them in his own way. And he said this really, really beautifully. He says like this, my strength alludes to the mind, the thoughts with which a person considers how to earn money. The power of my hand alludes to the physical labor one actually extends. And against these two, okay, these two sort of thoughts that take us away from Hashem is this idea of the divine presence, okay, the Hashem saying, my hand, it's my hand. Okay, so it's Hashem's hand. We think it's our power and our strength, but it's really the Yad Hashem. And those thoughts take us away. When we seek power in this world, okay, when we seek power, control, it's taking us away from Hashem. When we remember that it's Hashem's hand, okay, we open ourselves up for bracha and for spiritual growth and success and closeness to Hashem. Meanwhile, there's, of course, I didn't finish it. I wanted to talk about the Shema and the Mezuzah, but I don't think we're going to get there. I want to I want to thank again Dr. Eleanor Gudis for sponsoring these lessons, and week after week may be a source of bracha for her and her family. And if anyone has a question or a comment, you can jump in now. You can type in or chat. I don't have Darlene here, so it's a little hard. I mean, Charlene here, excuse me. So it's a little hard for me to field questions. Nope. Okay. All right. So everybody, I wish you a very good week. And please, Hashem, it should continue. We should to see only all of these blessings. We should each feel close to Hashem. We should each feel loved by Hashem. We should each really be able to return that love to the best of our ability and to feel that Hashem, for Hashem, we are his only daughter. Have a very good week, everyone.